My wife said our marriage was fake, so I took her words seriously, set boundaries, reclaimed my home, and forced a reckoning that changed everything. 4 hours later, she discovered I'd moved her belongings to the guest room and changed the Wi-Fi password. When she cried about me being dramatic, I simply said I was being dramatic too. Tuesday evening started like any other. I was scrolling through Netflix, trying to find something decent to watch after dinner. She walked into the living room with that look. You know the one, the same expression she gets when she's about to drop one of her emotional bombs. "We need to talk," she announced, crossing her arms. I muted the TV and turned to face her. "What's on your mind?" She took a deep breath, like she was preparing for some grand performance. "I'm going to be honest with you. Love is over. I'm just going through the motions now. This marriage, it's not real anymore. I'm only staying because it's convenient." The words hung in the air. Most husbands would probably panic, beg, ask what they did wrong, or promise to change. I looked at her for a moment, processing what she'd just said. "Okay," I replied calmly, "then stop going through them." Her eyebrows shot up. That wasn't the reaction she expected. "What do you mean?" she asked, suddenly less confident. "I mean exactly what I said. If you're just going through the motions, then stop. Why waste both our time with fake gestures?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. I could see her brain trying to recalibrate. This wasn't part of her script. "Well, I just wanted you to know where I stand," she stammered. "And I appreciate the honesty. Really. Now I know where we both stand." I turned the TV back on and resumed browsing. She stood there for another minute, clearly waiting for me to chase after her, to fight for us, to do something other than accept her declaration. When nothing came, she huffed and went upstairs. That's when I got to work. First stop, the router. Changed the Wi-Fi password to something she'd never guess. Then I went upstairs and methodically gathered her clothes from our shared dresser and closet. Toiletries from the bathroom, personal items from her nightstand. Everything went into laundry baskets. The guest room had been collecting dust since her sister visited last Christmas. I made 3 trips, moving everything systematically. Her jewelry box, laptop charger, those romance novels she never admits to reading, even that weird essential oils diffuser she insists helps her sleep. By the time I finished, it was like she'd never shared our bedroom at all. I was back on the couch watching a documentary about mountain climbing when I heard her coming back downstairs. She had her phone in hand, probably trying to connect to the Wi-Fi. "Why isn't the internet working?" she called out. "It's working fine," I replied without looking up. She walked into the living room, frustration evident on her face. "My phone says the network requires a password." "That's correct. What's the password?" "I changed it." She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "Why would you change it?" I paused the documentary and turned to face her. "Because you said you're just going through the motions. I figured I should stop subsidizing your fake performance." "That's ridiculous. I live here too. You said love is over, and you're only here because it's convenient. I'm just making it less convenient." Her face started turning red. "You can't just change the Wi-Fi password." "I just did." She threw her hands up in exasperation. "This is insane. Where are my things? My perfume isn't on the dresser." "Check the guest room." The color drained from her face. "You moved my stuff? You said the marriage isn't real, and you're going through the motions. I thought you'd prefer your own space to continue your performance." She rushed upstairs. I could hear her footsteps stomping around, doors opening and closing. When she came back down, her eyes were wide with disbelief. "You moved everything. My clothes, my jewelry, everything." "That's correct. You can't just decide this." I stood up and faced her directly. "Actually, I can. You made a unilateral decision about our marriage. You declared love dead and said you're only staying for convenience. I'm simply accommodating your wishes. I was being dramatic. So am I." The words hit her like cold water. She actually took a step backward. "This isn't what I meant," she whispered. "Then you should have said what you meant, instead of what you didn't mean." Tears started forming in her eyes. The same tears that had worked so many times before when she wanted to manipulate a situation back in her favor. "You're supposed to fight for us," she said, her voice cracking. "Fight for what? You just told me there's nothing to fight for. You said love is over. But I didn't mean—" "You meant exactly what you said, and I heard you loud and clear." I sat back down and unpaused the documentary. She stood there for several more minutes, waiting for me to break, to apologize, to beg her to come back to our bed. Instead, I watched a guy climb a mountain in Nepal. When she finally went upstairs, I heard the guest room door close. Then I heard it open again, then close. She was probably expecting me to come up and console her, to tell her we could work it out. I ordered a pizza and watched 2 more documentaries. Around midnight, I went upstairs to our bedroom. The house was quiet, the guest room door was closed, and no light came from underneath. I brushed my teeth, changed into comfortable clothes, and got into bed. For the first time in months, I had the entire king-size mattress to myself. No one stealing covers. No one complaining about the room temperature. No one sighing dramatically to get attention. I slept better than I had in years. The next morning, I woke up refreshed and made coffee like any other Wednesday. She came downstairs around 8, looking like she hadn't slept much. Her hair was messy, and she had that puffy-eyed look that comes from crying or staying awake replaying conversations. "Good morning," I said pleasantly, not looking up from my phone while I read the news. She mumbled something back and opened the refrigerator. I could feel her watching me, waiting for some sign that last night was just a bad dream. "The Wi-Fi is still not working," she said, testing the waters. "It's working perfectly. You know what I mean." I looked up from my phone. "I know exactly what you mean. You want access to something I pay for while living a life you described as fake and convenient." She slammed the refrigerator door. "Stop being petty." "I'm not being petty. I'm being practical. You established new ground rules yesterday. I'm just following them. Those weren't ground rules. I was venting." Funny how venting and honesty sound exactly the same. She sat down across from me at the kitchen table, trying a different approach. The tears were starting again. "Look, I'm sorry. I was having a bad day and I said things I didn't mean." "Which part didn't you mean? The part where love is over, or the part where you're only staying for convenience?" "All of it." "That's interesting, because you seemed pretty convinced last night." I finished my coffee and stood up to rinse the mug. She grabbed my arm. "Please, can we just go back to normal?" I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. "What's normal? The version where you say horrible things and then expect me to pretend they never happened? That normal?" She let go of my arm. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm not hurt. I'm informed. There's a difference." I grabbed my keys from the counter. "I'll be home around 6. "Where are you going?" "Work. You know, that place where people don't go through the motions?" The jab landed. I could see it in her face. When I got home that evening, she was waiting in the living room with what looked like a prepared speech. She'd clearly spent the day thinking about how to fix this situation. "I made dinner," she announced. I looked toward the kitchen and smelled something that might have been chicken. "That's nice. Your favorite, chicken parmesan?" I nodded and headed upstairs to change out of my work clothes. When I came back down, she had set the dining room table with our good dishes, lit candles, the whole production. "This looks elaborate," I said, sitting down. I wanted to do something special. The food was actually pretty good, but I could see her watching every bite I took, analyzing my reactions. "So," she said, after a few minutes of silence, "I was thinking we could talk about yesterday." "What about it?" "About how we can move past it." I put my fork down and looked at her directly. "Move past what, exactly?" "Your honest assessment of our marriage?" It wasn't honest. I was upset. "About what?" She hesitated. This was the part she hadn't rehearsed. "I don't know. Things just felt routine. So you decided to blow it up." "I didn't want to blow it up. I wanted you to, I don't know, react." "I did react. Not like that. I wanted you to fight for us, to show me you cared." I leaned back in my chair. "So you told me our marriage was dead and you were faking it because you wanted me to prove I cared?" When she heard it said back to her like that, she realized how ridiculous it sounded. "It's more complicated than that. Actually, it's not complicated at all. You played a game and you lost. This isn't a game. Then stop playing them." She started crying again, not the manipulative tears from yesterday, but genuine frustration tears. "I don't know how to fix this," she said. "There's nothing to fix. You were clear about your position. I accepted it. But I don't want you to accept it. Then you shouldn't have said it." I finished eating while she cried quietly across from me. When I was done, I stood up and started clearing my plate. "Thank you for dinner. It was good." "That's it? That's all you're going to say?" I paused at the kitchen doorway. "What would you like me to say? That I forgive you? That we can go back to how things were? How things were included you feeling so miserable that you had to declare our marriage dead? Why would I want to go back to that?" She didn't have an answer. I loaded my dish into the dishwasher and went upstairs. When I passed the guest room, I could hear her still crying downstairs. Around 9, she knocked on the bedroom door. "Can I come in? It's your house, too." She opened the door but stayed in the doorway. "I miss you," she said softly. "I'm right here. You know what I mean." I looked up from my book. "Do I? Because yesterday you told me this was all fake anyway." She walked closer to the bed. "Can I sleep here tonight?" "The guest room has a perfectly good bed." "I don't want to sleep in the guest room." "Then you probably shouldn't have said things that put you there." She stood there for another minute, hoping I'd cave. When I went back to reading, she finally left. I heard the guest room door close again. Then I heard her talking on the phone in hushed tones, probably calling her sister or her best friend, getting advice on how to handle a husband who wasn't playing by the old rules anymore. I finished 2 more chapters before turning off the light. As I settled into bed, I realized something had fundamentally changed. For years, I'd been the one trying to avoid conflict, trying to keep peace, trying to make her happy. Yesterday, she'd accidentally shown me what happened when I stopped trying. Thursday morning brought a new strategy. She was already dressed and making breakfast when I came downstairs. Not just coffee and toast, but the full spread: eggs, bacon, fresh orange juice, even those fancy hash browns she usually saves for weekends. "Morning," she said with forced cheerfulness. "I thought I'd make us a proper breakfast. Smells good." I poured myself coffee and checked my phone. She kept glancing over, waiting for praise or appreciation that wasn't coming. "So, I was thinking," she said, flipping bacon. "Maybe this weekend we could do something fun. Go to that new restaurant, downtown, catch a movie." "Sounds like you have plans." "We have plans, together." I looked up from my phone. "Do we? Yesterday you said this marriage was fake. Today you want date nights. Which version is real?" The bacon sizzled in the silence. "I'm trying here," she said quietly. "Trying to do what exactly?" "Fix things by pretending yesterday never happened." She turned off the burner and faced me. "What do you want me to do? Grovel? Apologize for the rest of my life?" "I don't want you to do anything. You've been very clear about where we stand." "Stop saying that. Stop saying what you told me." She served breakfast without another word. I ate, thanked her, and left for work. In the rearview mirror, I could see her standing at the kitchen window, watching me drive away. That evening, I stopped at Target on the way home, picked up some things I'd been meaning to get: new pillows, a coffee maker for my home office, a few other items that would make the house more comfortable for me. When I walked in with the bags, she immediately wanted to know what I'd bought. "Just some stuff for the house." "What kind of stuff?" I pulled out the coffee maker. "This is going upstairs. Too much hassle coming down here every morning." Her face fell. "You're setting up your own coffee station. Makes sense, doesn't it? More efficient." I headed upstairs with my purchases. She followed. "You're making yourself too comfortable up there," she said, watching me unbox the coffee maker on the dresser. "It's my bedroom. It's our bedroom. According to you, nothing about this marriage is our anything anymore." That afternoon call to her sister must have gone well, because Friday evening she deployed the nuclear option. I came home to find her mother sitting at the kitchen table. "Hello there," her mom said with that tone mothers use when they think their daughter has been wronged. "Evening. We need to have a little chat." I set my keys down and looked at my wife, who suddenly found the floor very interesting. "About what?" "About how you're treating my daughter." I pulled out a chair and sat down. "How am I treating her?" "She tells me you've banished her to the guest room over some silly argument." "She told you about the argument?" Her mother's confidence wavered slightly. "She said you two had words." "Did she mention what those words were?" Silence. "She told me our marriage is dead and she's only going through the motions because it's convenient," I said calmly. "So I stopped making it convenient." Her mother looked back and forth between us. "Surely she didn't mean..." "Ask her." More silence. Her mother tried a different approach. "Marriage takes work. You can't just give up at the first sign of trouble." I didn't give up. I listened. Sometimes people say things they don't mean when they're upset. Then they should learn to say what they mean. Her mother was losing ground fast. She looked to her daughter for help, but my wife just sat there picking at her fingernails. "Don't you love her?" her mother asked, playing her final card. "I love the woman I married. She informed me that woman doesn't exist anymore. She's sitting right here. The woman sitting here told me she's been faking it for convenience. Which version should I believe?" Her mother left 20 minutes later, after giving her daughter a look that said they'd be having a very different conversation later. That was unnecessary, my wife said after the door closed. Which part? Inviting your mother into our marriage, or telling her the truth about what you said? She's worried about me. Maybe she should be. Saturday morning I did something I hadn't done in years. I called up some guys I used to hang out with before marriage consumed my weekends. We made plans to watch college football at a sports bar. Where are you going? She asked, watching me get dressed. Out with the guys. What guys? Friends. You don't have friends. I stopped buttoning my shirt and looked at her. I don't have friends because for years every weekend has been about what you wanted to do, where you wanted to go, who you wanted to see. That's not true. When's the last time I went somewhere without you? She couldn't answer. I'll be home around 6. The sports bar was exactly what I needed. Good food, cold beer, and conversation that didn't involve analyzing every word for hidden meanings. My buddy Jake mentioned how different I seemed, more relaxed, he said during halftime. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. When I got home, she was waiting with questions. Where did I go? Who was there? What did we talk about? Why didn't I invite her? You don't like sports bars, I reminded her. I could have come anyway. Why would you want to fake enjoying something else? The question hung in the air. Sunday, I implemented phase 2. While she was getting ready for her usual brunch with friends, I rearranged the living room, moved my chair to the optimal TV viewing position, relocated her decorative pillows that served no functional purpose, cleared space for the home gym equipment I'd been wanting to set up. When she came home, the transformation was obvious. What did you do in here? Made some improvements. Where are my pillows? Upstairs. This is my living room too. Then you should have thought about that before declaring the marriage fake. She stared at the reconfigured space. It looked more like a place where someone actually lived rather than a magazine showroom. You can't just change everything. Watch me. That evening, she made one more attempt, put on a nice dress, did her makeup, the whole production. I was thinking we could order from that Italian place and have a romantic evening. Sounds nice. You should do that. Together. We should do that together? I looked up from my book. Why? So you can go through more motions? I'm not going through motions. Then, what changed between Tuesday and today? I realized I was wrong. About which part? She hesitated again, and in that hesitation, I saw the truth. She wasn't sorry about what she said. She was sorry about my reaction to it. All of it, she finally said. That's not good enough. What do you want from me? I closed my book and gave her my full attention. I want you to understand that words have consequences. Actions have consequences. You can't just say whatever you want and then expect everything to go back to normal when it doesn't work out the way you planned. So, what happens now? Now you figure out if you actually want to be married, or if you just want the convenience of being married, because I'm done with anything in between. She went upstairs without ordering dinner. I made myself a sandwich and watched a documentary about deep-sea exploration. For the first time in our marriage, I was setting the terms. Monday brought desperation. She was up before me, had coffee ready, and was dressed like she was going to a job interview. The kitchen counter was covered with printouts from marriage counseling websites. I found someone we can talk to, she announced, holding up a brochure. Dr. Williams has great reviews, and she has an opening this Thursday. I poured coffee and glanced at the papers. We don't need counseling. Yes, we do. We need help communicating. We communicated perfectly. You told me the marriage was dead. I believed you. That's not communication. That's being stubborn. I sat down and looked at her across the table. What exactly would you tell this counselor? That you said things you didn't mean and now you're upset that I believed you? I'd tell her that my husband won't forgive me for one mistake. It wasn't a mistake. Mistakes are accidental. You looked me in the eye and made a deliberate statement about our relationship. She sat down with her own coffee, trying to look reasonable. People say things when they're frustrated, and people react to those things. That's how consequences work. So, you're going to punish me forever? I'm not punishing you at all. I'm just not pretending anymore either. The counseling brochure stayed on the counter all week. Every morning she'd mention Dr. Williams again. Every morning I'd remind her that we didn't need a referee for a conversation she'd already finished. Wednesday evening I came home to find her cooking again. Not the elaborate productions from before, but real cooking. The kind she used to do when we were dating. Pot roast with vegetables, mashed potatoes, even homemade rolls. This smells incredible, I said honestly. Her face lit up. It's your grandmother's recipe. You mentioned once that you missed it. We ate mostly in silence, but it was comfortable silence. She wasn't performing, wasn't trying to manipulate the situation, just cooking good food. "Thank you," I said when we finished. "That was really good." "You're welcome." For the first time since this started, she seemed genuine, not desperate, not calculating, just present. But then she tried to leverage it. So maybe things can start getting back to normal now. And there it was, the transaction. Good dinner equals forgiveness. "This was a nice dinner," I said carefully. "But dinner doesn't erase what you said." Her face fell. "What will?" "I don't know if anything will." The honesty hit her harder than anger would have. Thursday morning, she tried a different approach. Instead of trying to fix things, she started asking questions. "What made you so calm about it?" she asked over breakfast. Most men would have yelled or gotten upset. "What would yelling accomplish?" "I don't know." "It would have shown you cared." "I do care." "That's why I took you seriously." She stirred her coffee thoughtfully. "I expected you to fight me on it." "Fight you on what?" "Your feelings about our marriage?" "They weren't my real feelings." "Then why did you say them?" She was quiet for a long time. "I wanted a reaction." "You got one." "Not the one I wanted." I finished my eggs and looked at her. "What reaction did you want?" "I wanted you to, I don't know, prove me wrong. Show me that the marriage wasn't dead by ignoring what I said, by fighting for us." I leaned back in my chair. "Fighting for us would mean not believing you when you tell me something important. Fighting for us would mean deciding your words don't matter. Is that really what you want?" She didn't answer. That weekend, I did something that changed everything. Saturday afternoon, I was setting up the home gym equipment in the living room when she came downstairs in workout clothes. "What are you doing?" I asked. "I thought I'd work out with you." I looked at her outfit. Brand new yoga pants, matching top, headband that still had the tag on it. "Since when do you work out?" "Since now." "I thought it might be something we could do together." I continued assembling the weight bench. "You don't need to pretend to like exercise." "I'm not pretending." I stopped and looked at her. 3 weeks ago, you called my workout equipment garage sale junk and said it made the house look like a gym. I was wrong about that too. But she wasn't just standing there waiting for permission. She started stretching, and I realized she'd actually been watching YouTube videos or something. Her form wasn't perfect, but she knew what she was doing. "You've been practicing," I observed. "Maybe." For the next hour, we worked out together. She didn't complain, didn't quit early, didn't make it about anything other than exercise. When we finished, she was sweaty and tired, but seemed genuinely pleased. "That was harder than I expected," she said, breathing heavily. "But good. You kept up. I'm tougher than you think." Something shifted in that moment, not back to the old dynamic, but towards something new. That evening, she made dinner again. Nothing fancy this time, just pasta and salad. We ate and talked about normal things, work, the news, plans for the weekend. It felt like a preview of what a real relationship might look like. After dinner, she helped clean up without being asked. Then she sat on the couch and turned on a documentary about sharks. "I thought you hated documentaries," I said, sitting down. "I hate boring documentaries. This one looks interesting." We watched the entire thing. She asked questions, made comments, seemed genuinely engaged. When it ended, she stretched and yawned. "I'm exhausted. That workout really kicked my ass." She started toward the stairs, then stopped. "Thank you for letting me work out with you today. You don't need my permission to exercise." "I know, but thank you anyway." She went upstairs to the guest room without asking about sleeping arrangements or hinting about coming back to the main bedroom. Just accepted the situation as it was. Later that night, I lay in bed thinking about the day. She'd shown me something different. Not the desperate woman trying to manipulate her way back into my good graces, but someone who was actually trying to understand what had gone wrong. For the first time since this whole thing started, I wondered if she might be capable of real change. But I also knew that one good day didn't erase years of emotional manipulation and game playing. The question was whether she could sustain this new approach long enough to prove it was real. 2 weeks passed with this new routine. She worked out with me every other day, cooked meals without making them into grand gestures, and stopped trying to negotiate her way back into the master bedroom. The house felt different, calmer, but I could see her watching me, studying my reactions, trying to figure out what came next. Tuesday morning, she finally asked the question I'd been waiting for. "What would it take?" she said over breakfast. "For what?" "For you to trust me again. For us to be us again. Right now, as we are today," she clarified. "Not someday." Not if I keep improving. I put down my coffee and really looked at her. The desperation was gone. So was the manipulation. She looked tired but not defeated, more like someone who'd finally stopped running and was ready to face whatever came next. That's the first honest question you've asked since this started, I said. So what's the honest answer? I leaned back in my chair. I need to know that you understand what you did. I said horrible things that I didn't mean. No, that's what you tell yourself to make it easier. What you actually did was try to manipulate my emotions to get a reaction. You weaponized our relationship because you were bored. She flinched like I'd slapped her. You're right, she said quietly. Say it. I weaponized our relationship because I was bored. She took a shaky breath. And I hurt someone I love because I wanted drama more than I wanted peace. We sat in silence for a minute. What else? I asked. I don't know what else. You taught me that your words don't mean anything. That when you say something, I can't trust it because you might just be testing me or trying to get a reaction. Tears started forming in her eyes, but she didn't try to use them. How do I fix that? I don't know if you can, but you haven't left. No, I haven't. Why? She considered the question. Because the woman I've seen for the past 2 weeks is someone I could actually be married to, but not the woman from before. The woman from before was exhausting, always testing, always pushing boundaries, always turning everything into drama. I loved her, but I didn't like her very much. The tears spilled over, but she wiped them away quickly. I don't want to be that person anymore. Then don't be. Is it that simple? The choice is simple. Following through is hard. She nodded and finished her coffee in silence. When she got up to leave for work, she stopped at the door. If I can prove I've changed, really changed, would you consider letting me back into our bedroom? Our bedroom was never the problem. Our marriage was the problem. Then would you consider letting me back into our marriage? The question hung between us. Ask me again in 6 months, I said. She left without arguing. That evening, something remarkable happened. Instead of trying to win me back, she focused on herself. She came home from work, changed into workout clothes without being asked, and did a full routine on her own while I was still finishing up some paperwork. When I came downstairs, she was cooling down with stretches. Good workout? I asked. Getting stronger, she replied, and I realized she wasn't just talking about exercise. Dinner was simple, but good. We talked about her day at work, a problem she was solving with a difficult client. She asked for my opinion, not because she was trying to reconnect, but because she actually wanted my input. After dinner, she did something that surprised me. Instead of settling in to watch TV or trying to spend time together, she went upstairs, and I could hear her on the phone with her sister. But this wasn't the desperate seeking advice call from before. I could hear her side of the conversation through the guest room door. I messed up really badly, she was saying. No, he's not being unreasonable. I said things that would have ended most marriages. There was a pause. I don't know if he'll forgive me, but I'm learning to be someone worth forgiving. Another pause. No, I'm not coming home to Mom's. This is my home, and he's my husband. If there's any chance to fix this, I have to do it here. When she came back downstairs an hour later, she looked different, resolved. Everything okay? I asked. My sister thinks I should move out. Give you space to cool down. What do you think? I think running away got me into this mess. Running away won't get me out. Friday evening, she did something that changed the entire dynamic. I was in the living room reading when she sat down across from me with a notebook. I wrote down every manipulative thing I can remember doing in our marriage, she said. I looked up from my book. Why? Because I need to see it all at once, and because you deserve to know that I know. She opened the notebook and started reading. The fake emergencies to get attention when I was focused on work. The silent treatments designed to make me chase after her, the threats to leave when she didn't get her way, the guilt trips about my hobbies, my friends, my family. It took 20 minutes. When she finished, she closed the notebook and looked at me. I turned our marriage into a game where I always had to win, and the only way I could win was if you lost. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know that I see it now. All of it. And I'm ashamed of every single item on that list. She stood up to leave, then turned back. I don't know if sorry means anything after this much damage, but I am sorry. Not sorry I got caught or sorry you reacted badly. Sorry that I did those things to someone I love. She went upstairs, leaving the notebook on the coffee table. I sat there for a long time staring at it. Part of me wanted to read through her list to see if she'd really captured the full scope of the problem, but another part of me realized that the list wasn't for me, it was for her. She was taking inventory of who she'd been so she could decide who she wanted to become. Saturday morning she was up early again, but this time she was cleaning. Not the performative cleaning designed to show me what a good wife she was, but real cleaning, organizing closets, scrubbing baseboards, clearing out years of accumulated clutter. "Spring cleaning in November?" I asked. "More like life cleaning," she replied. "Getting rid of things that don't serve me anymore." By Sunday evening, the house looked and felt different, lighter. She donated bags of clothes she never wore, books she'd never read, decorations that were just taking up space. "How do you feel?" I asked as we surveyed the results. "Like I can breathe again." That night, after she went upstairs to the guest room, I realized that somewhere in the past month, I'd started looking forward to coming home again. Not because she was winning me back, but because she was becoming someone worth being around. 3 months later, she asked the question I'd been waiting for. "Do you think we can actually make this work?" We were cleaning up after dinner when she said it. No build-up, no manipulation, just a direct question. "Right now, as we are today?" she clarified. "Not someday. Not if I keep improving." I put down the dish I was drying and really looked at her. She'd changed completely. The woman who used to weaponize emotions now spoke directly. The woman who created drama now solved problems. The woman who played games now played fair. "Yes," I said. "I think we can." Her shoulders relaxed, like she'd been holding her breath for months. "What would that look like?" she asked. "It would look like this. You being yourself, me being myself, both of us choosing to be here. The bedroom situation. I've been thinking about this for weeks. Move back in whenever you're ready. But understand, the rules have changed permanently." "What rules?" "No more games. No more manipulation. No more saying things you don't mean to get reactions. If you're unhappy, we fix it. If you're done, you leave. But no more emotional warfare." She nodded. "I can live with those rules. Even when you're angry or frustrated, especially then." That weekend, she moved her things back into our bedroom. Not with fanfare or celebration, just practically, like it was the natural next step. Sunday evening, we were watching a movie when she turned to me. "I need you to know something," she said. "What's that?" "I'm grateful you didn't let me get away with it." "Get away with what?" "With destroying us just because I was bored. Most men would have either left or gone back to the old way of doing things. You made me face what I'd done. I considered this. I made a choice to take you seriously when you said something serious, and it saved our marriage." 6 months later, we were stronger than we'd ever been. Not because we'd gone back to how things were, but because we'd built something entirely new. She'd learned to communicate without manipulation. I'd learned to enforce boundaries without anger. The woman who once declared our love dead now showed me every day what real love looked like. Not the desperate game-playing version from before, but the steady, authentic connection between two people who chose each other daily. She never again tested our relationship with dramatic declarations, and I never again accepted behavior that disrespected what we'd built together. We both learned that sometimes the only way to save something is to be willing to lose it completely.